China has built a new energy power station in the desert with an annual output of 4 billion kilowatt hours. This power station not only solves the problem of China's power shortage, but also plays a role in governing desert greening, allows plants and rice to grow in harsh desert environments. Now this project has successfully passed the Guinness World Records certification and has become the largest photovoltaic panel power station in the world. So, how did China build solar power stations in the desert? In recent years, many countries around the world have faced the problem of power shortage. For example, in Europe this year, electricity has now become a luxury for Europeans this year. Since the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the EU has joined the United States and has imposed sanctions on Russia for many times, which has increased European energy costs. In particular, the situation in France and Germany is particularly severe, and the electricity is in short supply. The International Energy Agency believes that the price of natural gas has risen sharply, and it will be particularly difficult for all Europeans this winter. In order to cope with the cold winter, Europeans must not import a large number of cheap electric blankets from China in advance. When Europeans know that China does not need to pay for expensive natural gas, but relies on solar energy to solve its electricity needs, and only needs to pay $0.08 per kilowatt hour of electricity, the whole Europeans are shocked. In fact, the concept of solar power generation did not originate in China, but in France. In 1968, the building designed by the French designer used a mirror to capture sunlight and direct the sun to a mirror. The temperature could reach 3,500 degrees Celsius, but at that time, solar energy complex scientists thought it was a project to study the sun, rather than a project to obtain cheap electricity. Although China has a population of 1.4 billion, they will not have the problem of power shortages like Europe, and now they are preparing in advance for the problem of green power supply in the future. With more and more technological products in life, China's electricity consumption is constantly increasing. Although they already have the Three Gorges Dam's annual power supply of 80 to 100 billion kilowatt hours, and the project of north-south water diversion from west to east, for China, where the manufacturing industry is developed, the power supply in some areas is still very high in the hot summer season. Tension. The traditional way of power generation is to use oil and coal, but will produce a lot of carbon dioxide. Chinese scientists believe that solar energy is the world's most promising field of power generation in the future. Therefore, China has begun to innovate boldly in the concept of France. When scientists from various countries are still studying how to use solar energy to solve electricity problems, China has overcome these problems independently, and has used solar energy in deserts to realize ecological greening and animal husbandry. The Kubuki Desert Power Station has an investment of $460 million, covers an area of 14,000 square kilometers, and requires the installation of 1.78 million photovoltaic panels. It only took China half a year from construction to completion. China's speed surprised the world. So, what is the significance of solar power plants to China? The installed capacity of this solar power station is 60.85 megawatts. The power conversion can reach 2 million kW, and there are a total of 1.78 million solar photovoltaic panels. If calculated based on the highest power generation, it is enough to 5 times the annual electricity consumption of the whole society in China, which can not only solve the problem of China's power shortage, but also sell power to neighboring countries to obtain income. The second, China's desert greening has played a major role. To develop this solar power station in the desert, the first thing to solve is to control the desert. From the 1980s to the present, China has gone through nearly 40 years of arduous sand control. Now, with the efforts of tens of thousands of people in China, the desert greening has reached 53%, making it the most successful desert greening project in the world. With green plants blocking part of the wind and sand, the desert can be completed on schedule. When the power station is completed, it can also help humans control the desert. Engineers use a tracking photovoltaic support system to track the angle of the sun in real time in the east-west direction throughout the day. Using the high reflectivity of sand to light, the module conversion efficiency is greater than 21.6%. These 1.78 million photovoltaic panels, each with a height of more than 2 meters, can not only generate electricity above, but also grow plants under the photovoltaic panels, while generating electricity. Desert governance and ecological restoration are carried out. These photovoltaic panels can effectively block most of the wind and sand from eroding desert plants and improve the living environment of plants under the panels. The Kubuki Desert, once known as the Sea of Death, is now the yellow sand has become an oasis, and the green area of the entire desert reaches 63%. Therefore, the desert greening and the power station complement each other. The third, increase the economic income of herdsmen. In the past, there was no grass in this desert, and people could not raise cattle and sheep, but now, grass can be planted under the 2-meter-high solar panels. After obtaining approval, the herdsmen living near the desert can plant grass on this space to raise a large number of crops, cattle and sheep, so as to get a good income. In addition, people will grow a lot of Chinese medicinal materials here, sell them to some wholesalers, and also grow rice here. It is rare to grow rice in the desert, but China has done it. Many families near the desert pass these the way to achieve poverty alleviation, live a good life, and the multiple complementarity of ecological, sustainable, and circular development make people's lives better and better. The fourth, it solves the problem of pollution generated by electricity. At present, there are 5 main ways to generate electricity in China, namely thermal power, hydropower, wind power, nuclear power, and solar power. Thermal power generation still occupies an absolute dominant position, accounting for 71.27%. Thermal power generation will produce a large amount of pollutants. Coal is one of the members that causes smog, and it will also affect human health over time. China plans to achieve 80% zero carbon emissions in its power system by 2035, and solar power is a green energy generation that does not produce any pollution. Without burning coal, it will not generate greenhouse gases, and it is a clean energy that meets the requirements of green and low-carbon transformation. China attaches great importance to the role of wind and solar energy in ensuring energy supply. Since this power station has generated electricity, the cumulative power generation has reached more than 4 billion kilowatt-hours, saving at least 135 tons of coal. Now, such solar power generation can provide electricity for people even at night. After the successful establishment of the base, a large amount of electricity will be generated, and the electricity can be safely transported to the distant Beijing, Shanghai, and other big cities with high electricity consumption. These solar energy have brought great convenience to local residents, and people do not need to pay expensive electricity bills or worry about power shortages. Although it is not as large as the solar power station in the Sahara Desert, there are many photovoltaic solar power generation in China, which is enough for them to use. Now, China has a lofty goal to take solar energy as one of the future energy development goals, to achieve low carbon emissions, to give the Earth a green environment. Secondly, they also hope to successfully solve the problem of desert desolation through solar energy, so that all deserts in China will be greened, and deserts will become farmland for farmers. If China's plan can be realized in other countries, not only will human beings not need to worry about power shortages, but the Earth's environment will also become better. What do you think about this? If you like my video, please comment below and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.